I always believed that no matter what happened, family would still be family. Until the night I found out I wasn't even considered part of mine. It was 2 days before Thanksgiving. I was finishing up a long shift at the assisted living center where I work. My feet ached, but I was looking forward to the holiday. I'd already bought ingredients to make the sweet potato casserole Mom used to love. I even picked up Chloe's favorite cranberry punch. That's when the group chat buzzed on my phone. "Hey guys," my sister Chloe had written. "Reminder, Thanksgiving dinner at my place Thursday, 5 p.m. sharp." There were dozens of replies. My cousins, my aunts, even Mom chimed in. "Can't wait. I'll bring my green beans." "Thanks for hosting, sweetie." But my name wasn't tagged. No one had said a word to me. Confused, I scrolled up, way up. I checked the last few weeks of messages. Nothing. No invite. No heads up. Not even a casual, "Hey Melissa, you coming?" I stared at the screen for a long time before typing. Was this planned already? I didn't know anything. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. Minutes passed. No reply. Then finally, one message popped up. From Mom. "Sweetheart, we just assumed you'd be working. Chloe didn't want you to feel pressured. She's trying to keep it intimate this year." Intimate. That word hit harder than I expected. Because I wasn't being left out because of a mistake. I was being excluded on purpose. I didn't even bother replying. I put my phone down, sat in the dark of my kitchen, and realized this wasn't the first time. It was just the first time they didn't bother to hide it. When I was younger, I used to think there was something wrong with me. I wasn't loud like Chloe. I didn't charm every room or light up every gathering. I was the quiet one, the practical one, the one who cleaned up after dinner while everyone else laughed over dessert. My mother, Barbara, married Ron when I was 10. He wasn't a bad man, just distant. He treated Chloe, his daughter from a previous relationship, like a little porcelain doll. Meanwhile, I became background noise. Useful, polite, invisible. Mom would say I was too serious, even as a child. But how could I not be? I had to grow up fast. While Chloe was at cheer camp or dance practice, I was doing laundry and helping Mom with groceries. When she got to skip chores, because she had big plans, I stayed home and made sure the dog was fed and the kitchen cleaned. I never complained. I thought being dependable was how you earned love. Even in high school, when I got a scholarship for nursing school and Chloe barely scraped through graduation, Mom bragged about her free spirit and how she was finding herself. I got my degree, took care of patients, paid rent on time, paid off my loans early. But no one ever said, "We're proud of you." Chloe dropped out of 2 colleges, moved back home twice, and started 3 different side businesses that Mom and Ron helped fund. They still called her their little dreamer. Meanwhile, I brought over groceries when they needed help, paid half of Mom's dental bill when she didn't have enough, helped Ron file insurance paperwork after his back surgery. But when Thanksgiving or Christmas came around, I was always the last to be told, the last to be thanked, or not told at all. I used to think maybe I just wasn't warm enough. Maybe they really believed I didn't enjoy family gatherings. Maybe I did give off cold energy. I'm not one for small talk or loud laughter, but now, after that message, I was starting to see it clearly. It had never been about my energy. It was about my existence making them uncomfortable, because I reminded them of the version of family they didn't want to remember, one where they weren't perfect, one where they had a daughter who didn't fit their Instagram version of happy. I wasn't the difficult one. I was just the one they couldn't rewrite. That night, after the group chat fell silent, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying it over and over in my head. The lack of surprise, the quiet acceptance I'd built over years, justifying their distance, telling myself maybe I was too much or not enough. But this time, something inside me broke free. It wasn't rage. It was something colder, something clearer. I opened up Chloe's Facebook. Her post was still up, and it said everything I needed to know. Grateful for everyone who came together to make this Thanksgiving so special. Family is everything. Below were photos of them all gathered in her living room. Mom, Ron, our cousins, our uncle, Chloe's boyfriend, even his parents. Everyone, except me. I stared at the photos, studied them, not out of jealousy, but out of disbelief. No storm, no keeping it intimate, no last-minute plans, just a deliberate choice to keep me out. And the worst part? No one looked like they missed me. I got up from the kitchen table, poured myself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. I thought about every family photo where I was asked to stand off to the side because you're the tall one. Every time I showed up with homemade food and no one touched it because Chloe's store-bought dip was just easier. Every holiday where I wrapped presents for everyone, but had to remind them to include my name on the gift tags. I thought about my 34th birthday last year, when I invited them over and only my cousin Mason showed up. Mom said Chloe had a migraine, but later that night, Chloe posted pictures at a concert. I always forgave them, always excused it, because that's what you do when you're the quiet daughter, the practical one, the one who doesn't make things awkward. But this time, it wasn't going to be quiet. I pulled out my phone and started typing a message. Thanks for making it clear this wasn't a misunderstanding. I won't be coming to future holidays. Don't worry about me showing up uninvited. Have a good life. Then I turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt around them in a long time. Control. By the next morning, my message had done its job. It didn't take long for the reactions to come pouring in. First was Chloe. She replied in the family group chat with a voice note, her tone syrupy sweet, but laced with that familiar condescension. Melissa, why are you making this into such a big deal? I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I just figured you'd be working like always. You get so tense at family things, and I didn't want to add pressure. It's not that deep. Not that deep. Right. Then came my mother. A simple text. Please don't start drama. It's Thanksgiving. Let's not ruin the holiday mood. That made me laugh, as if I had ruined the mood by pointing out I'd been left out. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from Mom. I let it ring. It rang again and again. Eventually, I answered. Melissa, she said, her voice full of practiced concern. You really need to calm down. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, I said, steady but cold. I'm finally seeing things for what they are. There was silence on the other end. Then came the shift, sharp and immediate. You've always been so difficult, she snapped. Even as a child, you pulled away from people. You never tried to be part of the family. I blinked. For a second, it almost worked. The guilt tried to creep in, the old reflex to apologize, to fix everything, but not this time. You mean I didn't fake smile through being ignored? I replied. Oh, here we go again, she sighed, exasperated. Always playing the victim. That word, victim, hit something deep. Because I wasn't playing. I had been the one who stayed quiet through years of being left out. I had been the one who gave more, expected less, and still ended up alone every time. And now that I had found the courage to name it, they wanted to silence me again. I'm done, I said quietly. With that, I ended the call. But they weren't done. Later that evening, a cousin messaged me. Aunt Barbara said you're going through something. Are you okay? Should we be worried? That's when I realized they were spinning a narrative, the classic Melissa is unstable storyline. Chloe began posting vague updates on Facebook. Some people just can't be happy unless they're tearing others down. I choose peace. Mom updated her status with a family photo from Thanksgiving. So thankful for those who love without conditions. And the kicker? Ron, my stepfather, sent me a passive-aggressive email with a quote from a parenting book. Children who isolate themselves often struggle with unresolved resentment. Be the bridge, not the wall. I laughed out loud, a bitter, exhausted laugh. They had left me out, lied about it, refused to acknowledge the harm. And now, they wanted to flip the story. I was the problem. I was the wall. But what they didn't realize was that walls can become boundaries. And I was finally building mine. About a week after Thanksgiving, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Linda Cartwright. She had been my grandfather's accountant for decades and a quiet friend of the family. I remembered her mostly from childhood, always showing up to barbecues with lemon bars and quiet smiles. Melissa, she said gently, I've been watching all this unfold on Facebook. I didn't want to get involved, but I think it's time you knew something. We met for coffee the next day at a quiet diner on the edge of town. She brought a slim folder with her, already worn at the edges, like she'd been holding onto it for too long. I promised your grandfather I'd make sure this went to you eventually, she said, sliding it across the table. He always said you were the one who saw things clearly. Inside was a copy of his original will. My hands trembled as I read through it. There it was, in black and white. To my granddaughter Melissa Turner, I leave the property on Lake Eldon and the trust fund originally set aside for her college and future investments, totaling $245,000. I looked up at her, stunned. I never saw this, I whispered. Linda's face darkened. That's because your mother and Ron filed a revised document shortly after your grandfather passed. They had you sign something at 19, a medical release form, they told you. But what you really signed was a limited power of attorney. My stomach dropped. I remembered that day. Mom had said I needed to sign a few papers so they could handle insurance stuff while I was at school. I didn't question it. I was still a kid. They used it, Linda continued, to transfer the trust into an account under Chloe's name. The lake property was sold the following year, also signed under your authorization. I felt physically sick. All that time, I said slowly. I was working 2 jobs through college, taking out loans, while they… Linda nodded, her voice soft but steady. They used part of it to fund Chloe's wellness studio and her move to Arizona. You paid your way while they lived off what was meant for you. I closed the folder. My head throbbed, but something inside me had already shifted. This wasn't just neglect anymore. This was theft. Intentional, quiet, calculated, and I had been the perfect target, dutiful, reserved, unwilling to cause waves. But not anymore. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop, pulled up old emails, family tax records, bank statements I'd helped Mom file years ago. I started cross-referencing names and transfers, every document I could piece together. And then I called a lawyer. Her name was Vanessa King. Young, sharp, fierce. She specialized in estate fraud and financial exploitation within families. After I explained everything, she leaned back and said just one thing. You have a case. A very strong one. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered every scrap of documentation I could. Screenshots of bank transfers to Chloe labeled business support, records of the property sale with my forged authorization, even photos of Chloe's studio opening, featuring a plaque with generously supported by the Turner family. That family was me. We prepared a formal legal notice, giving them one last chance to return what was taken, before filing charges. I invited them to meet at my apartment. Mom, Ron, Chloe. They showed up smug and slightly uncomfortable, acting as if I had finally come to my senses. Chloe brought a bottle of wine. We can move past this, Mom said, the moment she sat down. But you have to let go of the bitterness. It's eating you alive. I said nothing. Instead, I placed 3 manila folders in front of them. Each one held the same thing, a detailed timeline of their actions, copies of the forged documents, the bank transfers, the notarized will from my grandfather, a letter from my attorney. Chloe opened hers first. What is this? She whispered. Ron stiffened. Mom paled. It's your chance, I said calmly, to give back what never belonged to you, and to sign a confession acknowledging what you did before I take it to court. The room fell into silence. Then Mom hissed, You would tear this family apart over a few dollars? I looked her dead in the eye. You already tore it apart. I'm just finally refusing to keep pretending it's whole. They didn't sign the confession. I gave them 48 hours. 48 hours to do the right thing. Return the money. Admit the lie. Walk away with a shred of dignity. Instead, they panicked. They closed bank accounts, moved assets, even called distant relatives to do damage control. Chloe posted a long Instagram story about family betrayal and being targeted for success. Ron emailed me a cease and desist that my lawyer laughed at for being amateurish. Mom showed up at my work, tears in her eyes, guilt tripping me in front of my coworkers. You're going to ruin us, she whispered, as if she still thought guilt was currency I accepted. I said nothing. I simply walked away. The next morning, Vanessa and I filed the paperwork. Formal charges, civil litigation, a request for a temporary freeze on all Turner family assets tied to my name. It was official. 2 weeks later, a court order was served at Ron and Barbara's house. I heard about it from the neighbor who'd once told me I had a good head on my shoulders. She said Mom nearly fainted on the porch. The local paper picked up the story when the lawsuit was made public. The headline was quiet, but sharp. Wellness studio heiress accused of misusing inheritance funds from estranged sister. Within 48 hours, Chloe's sponsors pulled out. Her studio shut down. Her brand partnerships ghosted her. Ron's side business took a hit too. Once clients learned he was under investigation for financial misconduct. And Mom? She was the hardest to watch. Not because I felt pity, but because I finally saw her clearly. No more performance. No more manipulation. Just a woman who had built a life on appearances and was now watching it all collapse. My phone buzzed with messages from extended family, some shocked, some ashamed, a few quietly supportive. I always thought something was off, one cousin wrote. You were always kind. They just never deserved you. Rachel, the family friend who'd tipped me off about the will, sent me a card. You chose courage. Your grandfather would be proud. And still, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean, like I had finally scrubbed off years of emotional grime that had clung to my skin like smoke from a fire I didn't start. People asked if I wanted revenge. I didn't. I wanted peace. And sometimes peace comes when the noise finally dies, and you stop letting it live in your head. In court, they tried to argue misunderstanding, but the evidence was airtight. Chloe admitted to accepting the funds without knowing the full source. Ron said he did what was best for the family. Barbara cried on the stand, saying she never thought Melissa would go this far. But I had already gone further than they ever imagined I could. The judge ordered full restitution, $245,000 plus interest, legal fees paid in full, a formal apology filed with the court record, but no words from them. No direct apology, just silence. And for once, I didn't mind the silence. It was finally mine. It's been almost a year since the court ruling. I live in Ashland now, a quiet town tucked in southern Oregon. My apartment overlooks a small community garden. Every morning, I water the herbs I've been growing on my windowsill. Thyme, basil, mint. I started volunteering at the local senior center. Most days, I come home with a quiet joy I never used to recognize. A kind of contentment that doesn't need approval or applause. My student loans are paid off. The restitution came through in full, though it's not the money that matters most. It's what the money represented, the voice I finally claimed. I used to think healing would feel loud, like a movie moment where everything explodes into happiness. But healing feels more like silence. The kind of silence where you no longer expect the phone to ring from someone who never called before. The kind of peace that comes when you stop checking the group chat that never wanted you in it anyway. Mom hasn't reached out. Neither has Ron. Chloe sent me one message months ago, just a single line. You got what you wanted. Happy now? I never replied. Because the truth is, no, I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted a family. I wanted to matter. I wanted to sit at a Thanksgiving table and not wonder if my chair was temporary. But what I got was something better. I got myself. I got to stop begging for love in rooms where I was only ever tolerated. I got to build something honest from the wreckage. And I got to learn that sometimes leaving is the most faithful thing you can do for yourself. Last week, I received a small package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo, a faded picture of me and my grandfather at Lake Eldon. I was 7 years old, wearing mismatched socks and holding a fishing pole too big for me. He was smiling at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. Taped to the back was a note in his handwriting. I recognized the curve of the letters instantly. For the strong one. One day, you'll see why I believed in you. I sat there for a long time, holding that memory in my hands. And I whispered out loud, more to the little girl in the photo than to anyone else. I see it now. I do. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not in tearing others down. It's in building a life they can no longer touch. A life where peace isn't something you earn. It's something you choose. And once you choose it, you never go back.